Good morning and welcome to the Calaveras Board of Supervisors meeting for January 8th, 2019. Can we all rise, pledge? County Council, can you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had two items in closed session this morning. Madam Clerk, would you like to read the memo?
Item 1, public employment. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, title, Building Official, there was no reportable action taken. Item 2, public employee appointment. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, title, Building Official, there was no reportable action taken.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, and that's announcements.
Announcements. This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public.
Sorry. Is there any board announcements this morning?
Not this morning.
Supervisor Mills?
Yes, Chair, thank you. There is a volunteer fair that's going to be conducted tomorrow evening across from the fire station here in San Andreas. For those that are interested, begins at 7 o'clock, and it is for a lot of different volunteer organizations for those that might be interested. 6 o'clock? Thank you. Somebody just corrected me. So for those that might be interested in volunteering or wanting to know about what volunteers do in our county, it would be a tremendous opportunity if you'd like to come and to see what they're doing. Thank you.
Any other board announcements? Seeing none, is there any staff announcements? No staff announcements. We will move on to the next item. Item number 3, Madam Clerk.
Item 3, election of the 2019 Chair of the Board of Supervisors. Can you turn on your mic, please?
You need, yeah.
Thank you.
So you have a motion for Supervisor Garamendi from Supervisor Callaway.
I don't have a motion, I just want him to be chair.
Okay, well, I will make the motion that we elect Supervisor Garamendi as chair.
I'll
for
second
2019.
that.
I have a second by Supervisor Stopper. Do we have any other discussion or any other nominations or motions? If not, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment?
Opposed?
I'm sorry.
We need public comment. Any public comment before we vote?
Good morning. Welcome, new and returning supervisors. Colleen Platt with MyValleySprings.com, and I just want to encourage your vote to support Supervisor Garamendi. He's had 2 years of experience as a supervisor, 2 years of experience as a vice chair, and he has also chaired a very full meeting that lasted from 9 to 5 with 32 agenda items, and there was no confusion and no disturbances, and I thought he did a good job, so I encourage you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I'd just like to say, if we could go back to some systematic method of keeping people in track so that one district isn't overrepresented and other districts aren't underrepresented, I think we should go back about 20 years and find out what districts have not had a chance to be to be chair, and which districts have had a chance, and try to find some kind of way of providing equity there. That's what I'd like to see. But I welcome Jack because it's been a while since District 2's had chair. Thank you.
I'm Will Moore from Rancho Calaveras, and I stand with Jack.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, now we'll bring it back for a vote to the board. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I guess the gavel literally passes to me in that moment.
Gavel, you are now chair from this point forward.
Thank you. I have a couple comments, but I think I'll save them until we get done with our business today. But I'd like to thank you, Chairman, past Chairman, for your work this last year, and it was a pleasure sitting next to you and working with you.
Pleasure working with you guys.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to, again, welcome back, and welcome Ben to the board. So we should have a lot to get done this year. Madam Clerk?
Item 4, election of the 2019 Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors.
I would like to make a motion that we consider over the years who has been represented in which districts, but for right now, my motion is for Marita Callaway for Vice Chair.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Dennis, did you vote? No, it's okay. Okay. Abstain? Passes 4-1 and 1 abstention.
Mr. Chair, could we please take a 5-minute break so we can make some adjustments and I can do the things I need to do for the system?
Very well, we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
What's that?
All right, we'll reconvene this meeting of January 8th, 2019. Before we begin, I just want to make a couple quick comments as I assume the chair. First, I want to once again thank Supervisor Tofinelli for his service over this last year and welcome our new board members. I want to thank you very much for voting me in as chair. It's an honor, and I really appreciate it. We have a great deal of work to do this year, and I look forward to getting to it. So to the board, I just wanted to confirm to you that I will do my best to manage these meetings as best as I can. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and I ask you for your patience as I figure things out. I have a different pace for a meeting, so we'll work together and figure out what the right pace is for our board. These are the most valuable minutes that we get to spend together. It's the only place we all get to talk about the issues, and I hope that I could help facilitate really good, deep dialogue on some of these issues as we go through this year. This is our most valuable time, and I look forward to maximizing it. And to the public, and in particular, those members of the public who are regularly attendees of our meetings, you have, and I will continue to defend your right to petition your government. I will ask that you conduct yourselves in a manner which reflects well upon our county and upon yourselves. In general, hate-filled tirades maybe make for really good YouTube clips or Facebook posts, but they are rarely an effective method for influencing your board or the public. And I think if that's your objective, then I wouldn't take that approach to this board. I'm also going to insist that the public address the board directly. I'm not going to tolerate anybody attacking our staff. You have the right to petition your government, and we get paid often to sit up here and take abuse should it come, but we're not going to tolerate attacking staff. You can attack performance or things, but personal attacks are not going to happen. I believe that working together this year, we're going to accomplish a lot. As I said, there's a lot of work to be done, but there's also a lot of good stuff happening in this county. And as we take on our hard issues, I want to make sure that we celebrate the good stuff that's happening in this county too, because it's not all bad. It may not all be good, but there's a lot more good than bad going on. And I want to lift that up and represent our communities well and the good things that's happening. So with that, we've got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to getting at it. So So thank you guys very much for your support. You're going forward. Madam Clerk.
General public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed within the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Public comment, and if the public can line up, that'll help us move along at a quicker pace.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and new Board of Supervisors. I'm Stacy Johnston, CEO of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Garamendi, I appreciate the comment about great things happening in this county, so that's why I'm here. Thank you, Supervisor Mills, for alluding to the volunteer fair tomorrow evening. The Chamber is extremely excited about this event. First annual, we have over 25 organizations that will be in attendance tomorrow. So for those of you who have a passion for serving, have a passion for community, we have amazing organizations working throughout this county that need volunteers. So please come, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening at the San Andreas Town Hall. With that being said, I want you to know that your chamber is actively working throughout this county, not just in Calaveras County, but in Amador, Tuolumne, and surrounding counties. To bring awareness to our business climate, to be a source of support and resource to our businesses here in Calaveras County, not only through the Chamber, but through the Calaveras Business Resource Center. There are great things happening. So what I've done is I've just put together a few of the events happening in January, along with our mixer calendar, information on the Business Resource Center, my business card for those of you who do not have it. Please call me if you have any questions, any concerns. That's what I'm here for. And with that being said, we are excited to bring great things to the residents of Calaveras County, to the business community, and the Chamber takes great pride in what we do, and we thank you for your support. You've been very supportive of our organization, and it helps us do what we need to do, not only just within the Chamber, but to help our local business associations and other organizations that are doing great work within this county. So with that being said, I'll give this to Ms. Diane. I apologize, there was only enough for the supervisors, but if you have any questions, our information is there. Please feel free to contact me. And congratulations again, and we look forward to a great year.
Al?
Al Gallant, Taxpayer Association and Chamber member. I'd like to welcome the new members of the Board of Supervisors, and also thank the ones that had served us before. And I'd like to also recognize our Manuel Lopez, our CAO. He's done a good work for us before. And welcome Megan back. And of course, the most important person here is Diane, so we've got to recognize her. In the rules of being a supervisor, I understand there's a regular sort of a manual put together, and there was a 2-day seminar that was held or initiated by our former CAO, in which the supervisors and also department heads learned to work better together. And it was very good. I was able to attend that. But there's one thing that was missing, which is a reference to the purpose of government. It was not there. And our taxpayer group would like to suggest, in addition to that manual, that would recognize our U.S. Constitution as our basic overriding law of the land, and also recognition of individual rights of life, liberty, and property, which are in the Constitution on the 5th and 14th Amendments. If this was done, if this was added to it, I think that we'd have less disharmony, and we would have more prosperity. And thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Good morning, Terry McBride, District 2. Happy New Year. Welcome our new board members. I wanted to just bring up a couple of things. Frank, I totally agree with everything Al said, especially everything having to do with our Constitution, the law of our land. We apparently have need for a new department head of the building department, and I'd like you to think of a few things. This is a rural county. That's why we live it here. We want it to remain a rural county. Wide open spaces, nobody looking over other people's fences to see if they're doing something wrong, and then reporting it. We don't live in that area. We don't want to live in that area. We do not want a building department head that advocates that type of behavior. I'd also like to see, because there used to be, and I wonder why there isn't now, a list of the building fees at the building department. And it listed what each school district charged for the bedrooms and the rim and all that. So you could kind of get an idea before you take your plan in, because right now the only way you can find out is when you take your plan in. And if I find out, well, by rearranging my plan, I'm going to save me some money, I'd like to do that before submitting my plan. That's just public knowledge, and it should be listed up there. And then whomever this building department person is to recognize and acknowledge and honor property rights. We pay property taxes. We follow the rules. We have property rights, and none of us want one of them dinged away or impaired in any way. Very important. The other thing, real quick, is I'm happy you guys settled with PG&E, and I would like you, I understand that's going into the general fund, I'd really like you to consider the reason you're getting that money is because we lost our homes. And we are going through HELL, I won't curse, but I'm sure you understand. I cut up trees every single day that are falling on my property. Guess how many trees are about ready to fall on the public roads with cars under them? That money needs to go towards cutting down the trees along the public roads. Those of us that have private roads will deal with that. But along the public roads, this is a true danger. And there's some big trees. And I'm just coming down today, I saw where one had fallen and it got moved off the road and everything. But what if somebody had gotten hammered? Does anybody remember what happened to one of our ladies in Mountain Ranch? I won't say her name, she'd be embarrassed. But the damn tree fell right on top of the vehicle. It happens. And this is totally preventable. So I would ask that when you're looking at that money, to really consider the trees that are along Mountain Ranch Road, the public ways, and cut them, get them down so that we can protect lives. Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Hello, new board. Welcome to 2019. I'm Terry Weatherby. I'm the only structural engineer with an office in 4 counties. And I worked extensively with the building department. I'm going to miss Ed Short. He had his challenges, but he did a number of things that are still in progress that we need to carry on with. One of the things that he did, I do a lot of work in 4 counties. Like I said, Tuolumne, Amador, Calaveras, and Alpine, about 90% of my work. I do work in the Bay Area, and I work in a lot of other building departments. And a lot of people up here don't realize what you go through in a Bay Area building department. Ed did a good job of bridging between the California, the extensive codes and everything that we have to put up with. And I'm sure our new guy will do just as well. But what Ed did that I'd never seen in any of those 4 counties was an industry group. We met every other month to talk about things at the building department. And I know a number of you, well, Jack attended a couple meetings, and I don't know if and I think Dennis was at a couple meetings too. So we'd like to carry on the industry meeting. And I know that you guys have initiated a search. I was a little disappointed that nothing happened this morning. I guess that doesn't mean that nothing happened this morning with the building department. It just means nothing's reportable. But I'd like to volunteer my services. If I can assist in finding a building official, I'd be happy to do that. Michelle Plotnick is an architect in Murphy's. She offered to do that. Ray Waller fills in, You know, he was building official here many years ago, and he fills in as an interim plan checker for Amador and City of Jackson and City of Angels. So he's a good resource to have in that search. So if we can help you with our former industry group now, with Ed being gone, if we can help any of you, give us a call or give me a call. I'd be happy to help however I can. So good luck in the search. It was a nightmare when we went through it, finding Ed short, and I don't look forward to the gap at the top. So hopefully we can get somebody in place so that the building department can move along. So thanks, you guys. I look forward to it. We'll see what we can do.
Good morning, Board. I've been known to define words out of the dictionary, and to take a hint from what some speakers before me said, talking about wide open spaces, my word for the day is wall, W-A-L-L. It's something I think every American today has to struggle with, what a wall is, what it's going to be about. And so I looked it up in my dictionary, and it says it's an upright structure of wood, stone, or brick, etc., serving to enclose, divide, support, or protect. It can be a rampart raised for defense. It can be an intangible barrier or obstruction, suggesting a wall, like a wall of prejudice. When I think of a wall, I think of something that can go either way. It can be used to keep something in, or it can be used to keep something out. I know when I hit a wall, that means I can go no further. I can make no more progress. Progress is not to be made when you hit a wall. The positive side of a wall is it can be used to defend yourself from something. It can be used to protect from harm. When I think of the wall, I think of the Berlin Wall. That's what I grew up with, all the time thinking about it. I remember it was not too long ago, maybe 10 years ago. Time goes like that when you get my age, but they tore down the Berlin Wall, and it was a time of celebration and rejoice and a melding together, a time of forgiveness when the wall came down. And we all have our own walls, and we have a wall to struggle with now if we're going to be paying for it, or if Mexico's going to pay for it. But as a taxpayer, I don't want my money going for a wall. I want my money going for a melding together. I want my money going for a marriage of minds and ideals and cultures. And I think that when we get rid of walls, we become free. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Ladies, Mike Fowley, District 2. Congratulations, Jack, on the chairmanship. My only comment is I hope you enforce the rules that were put up there. And personally, I feel that we've all witnessed the personal attacks that you talked about. And the last board chairmanship, I'm not making a personal attack, I'm just stating a fact. There was too much, let's say, input from the audience when speakers were up here. Too many rude comments directed at speakers from all different sides of any one argument. And I didn't see any enforcement of these rules. Personally, I hope you give, and I'm directing this to you, sir, one warning. First time it happens, someone in the audience is either rude to a county council, a supervisor, or any staff, or a speaker at this podium. First time they're rude, you say you give one warning and say from now on, next time someone does that, they're out of the meeting. Because last board chairman did not do that, and therefore it was rampant in the audience, personal attacks to speakers and board and staff members. So I hope you bring the hammer down first time and make it clear to the public that that will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Good morning, Chris Jonkholz, District 2. Welcome to our new supervisors and welcome back to our 3 remaining supervisors from the last board. Jack, thank you for your positive speech. I've been up here pretty much the last 3 months cleaning on my property, and I feel that happening in Mountain Ranch as well. There's more energy happening now than there was previously, and I think some people are coming maybe out of the fire, and the shock of the fire is finally wearing off, and we're seeing some progress. The last time I spoke was when I was following PG&E's presentation, and I was lamenting that they hadn't come and cleaned up my property or contacted me. Following my speaking that day, they contacted me in the hallway, and they've now come to my property. They spent a week there cleaning up everything they had felled since the fire, and they pretty much put me ahead by a year by doing the work that they did. So in the sense of, let's be positive, I'm really happy with what's happening now. I'm making real progress on my property. And I'm hoping that the changes that are coming in the building department will let me remodel the structure that's on the property and have a residence there, begin paying property taxes there, and continue the work that I've been able to do. It's turning into a park finally after all the work I've done. I can see what the previous owner had 20 years ago. There's a lot of properties like that here. Even though my property burned, it's clear now, and what I can see that's green, I can almost forget the fire. And now I am ready to build, and I need a building department that'll work with me to allow me to do that and to move forward. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the new board's actions, and I thank you guys all for serving, and let's have a great year. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further people standing up for public comment, we will close it. Moving on, Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Are there any board members who wish to remove an item?
I'd like to remove item 5 and 6, please. In case y'all didn't hear me first time. I'd like to remove items 5 and 6 to abstain.
Very well. Anybody else? Ben?
I would also like to abstain.
Okay. Any staff want to pull an item? Public? Seeing none, we'll move forward the consent agenda, excluding item 5 and 6, which we'll vote on afterwards.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Tofinelli, second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 5, Madam Clerk.
Item 5 is the minutes of the Board of Supervisors regular meeting held on December 18th, 2018.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Moved by Supervisor Mills, second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
2.
Two abstentions. Supervisor Stopper, Supervisor Callaway. Item 6.
Item 6 is the minutes of the Board of Supervisors special meeting held on December 21st, 2018.
Any public comment? Seeing none, any board discussion? Guess that's out of order, but is there a motion?
I'll move this item.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Tofinelli, second by Supervisor
I'm
Mills.
sorry, Chair.
Yes.
You need to allow for public comment. We did not do that on the last item either.
I think I got it.
Yeah,
I did.
We
Did you do it on this
I
one?
just did it really fast.
Oh, okay. I need
I
you to
didn't see
slow.
people
I need you to
jumping up.
slow down a little bit.
Very well.
Thank you.
We'll just open this up really quick. Is there any other public comment on item number 6? Seeing none, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Very well. Thank you very much. Moving on to our regular agenda.
Item 15 is from Public Works to receive a presentation and give staff direction on removal of dead and dying trees on Bureau of Land Management land in Calaveras County. I think that we need just a moment to set up.
Okay, let's just stand and pause.
Okay.
While he plugs that in. I don't think we need to have a recess. Board members, guys, ready to go. All right, the meeting is off pause and we are resuming.
There we go. Thank you. Morning, Chair Garamendi and members of the board. My name is Joshua Pack. I'm your Director of Public Works and Transportation, and I'm here today to present an update and solicit feedback from the board on Butte Fire tree removal along BLM properties. So today the purpose of this brief presentation is to discuss some of the current issues relating to tree removal on properties owned by BLM, as well as solicit the board for future steps and additional feedback for potential next steps. So we've been doing updates over the last couple of years since the Butte fire on what the county's been doing to do some cleanup. There has been considerable efforts by members of the board as well as county staff to do cleanup on both county and private property. However, there continue to remain concerns about trees located on BLM lands that pose an immediate threat to county roads. Not only to public safety, the threat of a tree falling down on people or on vehicles, but also to impacts to emergency ingress and egress in case of an event, or the potential impacts to both public and private property. So the BLM, the county did some studies the last couple of years on trees that are impacted on BLM land in these particular areas. 4 parcels in particular, as part of this particular study, were identified. They were all located in District 2. 2 were located on Jesus Maria Road, just west of Whiskey Slide. It was about 1.75 miles worth of road. In these particular stretches, there was also a considerable amount of trees on West Murray Creek and a few additional trees on Cave City Road. Now, this is a table that shows the trees from that study. Again, that study was done in late 2006, 2016, early 2017. So not much in the way of additional studies have been done to update this number. However, at that time, there were about 640 trees. Now, there have been some trees that have been removed already by Public Works and others. In all, the county, about 86 were removed from these locations previously, and then some additional trees have fallen over time. We're estimating somewhere in the neighborhood of 520 or so trees remain, although when we actually go out, if we do go out and perform some work on this, I think the final numbers may change depending on what's fallen and what else we find. So the reason I'm here today is federal land is a little bit different than private property or county roads. We have these county roads that I've identified. They're all county maintained roads. However, these roads, like many other roads in the county, were established at a time that the county didn't acquire the formal property rights underneath the road. So the county still has rights to maintain these roads through what's called prescriptive right-of-way. However, prescriptive right-of-way, the county cannot claim rights on public property. Much like the private can't come on a public road and claim prescriptive rights on public property, the county can't necessarily claim prescriptive rights on federal or state-owned land. So traditionally, in hindsight, what you do is you establish an agreement with the federal agency that clearly outlines the rights and responsibilities you have to maintain the road and to property on each side of the road, whether it's an agreement or some other mechanism. Unfortunately, that mechanism doesn't exist for these roads. So in the long term, that's a potential solution, and I'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. As your new Director of Public Works, I've only recently come engaged in this sort of issue. However, it is worth noting that there's been considerable effort since the Butte fire on behalf of Supervisor Garamendi and others on the board, as well as staff and BLM as well, to come to some sort of consensus. It has been slow going. I cannot underestimate the amount of red tape that's been that we've gone through in order to get to this point today. The reason this meeting's happening, the reason I'm reaching out to you for feedback is we attended a meeting with BLM on December 21st to try and generate some sort of near-term solution for these immediate hazard trees. That meeting was attended by Supervisor Garamendi, myself, other members of staff, and BLM. At this meeting, BLM gave us direction that they will not be removing the trees on their property for whatever reason, whether it's through lack of resources or what else, but they will not be doing that. BLM has asserted that the county, with the trees within immediate danger to the county roads, that the county has some responsibility to remove those trees. However, BLM, we've had a difficult time with BLM recognizing our rights to do that, and essentially does not recognize our rights. So in the long term, what the answer is to solve this issue is to have an agreement in place. It gives very clear definition on what the county's rights and responsibilities are. However, that doesn't solve the near-term issue with the trees that pose an immediate threat. So we need some sort of short-term direction from the board on these trees that pose an immediate danger that we can take care of here in the very near future. So that ends my discussion. Again, my idea was to try to prompt a discussion with the board on some of the next steps. I know Supervisor Garamendi, the chair, has had a lot of discussions with this, and maybe the next step would be to look to you to provide additional feedback before engaging with the board. And I'm here to answer any questions. And then, again, the feedback you give to me, I'm looking for feedback for future board actions, the potential for future board actions. So thank you for your time. And
Thank you very much, Josh. If it's all right, I'd like to add some color to this, and sort of in the whole philosophy of having discussion.
That's what I was going to ask for.
Let me give you a color. And Gary and Dennis, you've listened to me rail about these trees for the last 2 years that I've sat up here with you. Bottom line is, we've got our roads. We don't have clear easements on them. They're going through a lot of BLM property that was burnt by the Butte Fire. We were unable to use FEMA money. We're unable to clear these because of certain rules about using federal money from one agency to federal money on the other. We have gone around this tree a million times. We've actually fought with the Department of Interior, which BLM's a part of, all the way up to the Deputy Secretary level in Washington, D.C., trying to figure out how we're going to get some money to deal with these trees. Right before, and this is a clear and present risk. These trees are hanging over our roads. They're falling. I mean, your crews are out pretty much all this week and clearing these trees and stacking them on the side of the road just to keep roads going through. And and so this is a real threat to the community. And we've been at this impasse. We had a breakthrough, I believe, on the 21st. BLM actually sent us a letter saying, you've got immediate threat to your roads, deal with it. And then they got furloughed. So we've got the last word. And we're trying to figure out, so I asked Josh and OES and the administration to look at how can we just get this done. Because any cost that we're going to incur in taking down these trees is going to be minuscule to the cost we'd have to pay if somebody got hurt. And I don't know whether it's, I believe this is BLM's responsibility, but BLM is a long way from our community and people are at risk. So what I asked is that this be brought forward so we could begin familiarizing this board on what the situation is, because we're going to have to return to the board to get clear direction for Public Works, and we're going to have to provide funding. And it's going to hurt to pay for something that someone else should be doing, but at the same time, they're not going to do it. So we have to do it. We can stand there and at loggerheads all day until the trees come down, but it's work that has to happen, and it's just lousy how this whole thing's worked out. But I appreciate Public Works participation and leadership in getting this done. So Josh and I could probably answer any questions you've got, but this is just for familiarization. Supervisor Tofinelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a cost per tree?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do have a slide. I've run some preliminary costs. The numbers are based on, we've done 3 or 4 recent bids through the private tree removal in similar sizes and scopes on private property. The average tree cost for those has been about $280 per tree. This pricing does not reflect, since the Carr fire and other fires, which is pulling resources away from this area to those areas. So there's an assumption that there may be some increased costs. So basically, with those costs along with the additional cost to administer the contract, my guess is somewhere in the $250,000 to $300,000 range.
Right.
To me, that's a conservative estimate. I'd be surprised if it goes much above that. And we would do everything we can to get that lower, obviously.
That being said, if the board would consider setting aside $250,000,
It's a $300,000.
$250 to $300,000. Okay.
250 should
Not to exceed $300,000. How's that?
That's reasonable.
The possibility of setting aside $300,000 for this task because of the public safety issue that we're having out of teeter funds to resolve this issue, and then go forward trying to recover if we could. I know it'd be a big uphill fight for a long time, any recoverable funds from BLM, but at least monitor the situation and take pictures and so forth as we're doing it to verify that it's on their land, to relieve public safety and just get on with this thing. We had a terrible storm over the weekend that I had healthy trees fall over, break, branches break. I've lost a few. These are unhealthy trees, and they're standing, and the threat of death or great injury is very imminent here. So I would propose to do that if the board would entertain that thought.
Supervisor Mills?
Thank you, Chair. I think that there's two issues here. One is that you said long-term versus short-term. BLM, as we know, only has, 3 staff members that cover this area, so their ability to monitor their own properties is very slim to none at best. Number 2 is they don't have the financial resources to physically do anything about it. If they're willing to give us a blanket authority to go in and take care of the issue, we need to take advantage of it while we've got it, because they may change their mind. Secondly, I see that there might need to be an engagement from our federal representative and having them to some degree intervene in the discussion. I had personal conversations with Interior Secretary Zinke when he was here last July. So I know that possibility exists, that we can have those conversations, but if it doesn't rise to the level of critical importance to them, then they're not going to really do a whole lot about it, because there's a lot of things in their world that are critically important. So I agree. I think that if we could set aside some money from our teeter fund right now, get on with getting a contract let, getting this taken care of, then we can have those further discussions down the road. But we need to establish in the longer term some type of policy of how we relate to BLM and our prescriptive easements within BLM lands. And ultimately, I would like to see BLM start to give back that land that they've held. They've got pockets all over this county in thousands of different parcel sizes. So where they're not functionally usable anymore, for them to hold on to them really makes no sense at all. And I can refer to one little square that's probably 200 feet by 200 feet right there on Camp 9 Road, which makes no sense at all. Give those back to the counties to get the control back to a local jurisdiction. Should be something we should be working on from a policy level in our discussions with them. So that should be included in anything that we talk to them about, saying, you're not capable of taking care of the land. We're not really even getting a whole lot of PILT as a result of this. So give it back. Let us control it, because we can do it locally better than you can do it from a distance.
Supervisor Stopper, are your lights off?
Most of the things were already brought up by you, Jack, and Gary. I would agree with Gary that we should move forward with 250 to 300,000 at the most, moving towards you. And I want to thank you, Josh, for stepping up with Public Works and taking this underneath your wing right now, because from what I understand, nobody knew who was going to have to take care of this, different jurisdictions and everything, but you stepped up a bit to bat, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Let me do this to clarify, because we're stepping into an area which this is only a presentation. I would like to ask the chair to poll the board for direction to be given to bring back a resolution as to what direction we'd like to go in a formal declaration, rather than do this right now.
Oh, I agree. And I would, and I agree. And to your point, Supervisor Mills, you know, I would say that the administration has been open to the conversations as high as the Chief of Staff to Secretary Zinke. You know, they're frustrated by this as well. And the fact of the matter is the federal government's just not funding BLM adequately, and so they've got to figure out what they're going to do. This is an informational item, but I think we'll open it to public comment or staff comment.
Right. So in that, sorry, I have a cold, so I have a brain cloud. So with that direction to staff, making sure that you're defining what the funding source you want to see is, and Supervisor Mills, you had brought up Teeter. I want to continue to remind, or whoever did, I want to continue to remind you, we set aside a significant amount of money in the general fund reserve specifically because on the heels of rim fire, I said if we had our rim fire, that we would need those types of resources. So that's why we increased the general fund reserve so much. So that's why that money is there specifically for these types of emergencies. So don't lose sight of the fact that there is funding in there specifically for issues like this. So don't always assume Teeter is going to continue to bail us out, because if you recall, we are leveraging on Teeter for some budgetary issues.
I mean, in that case, perhaps we should have let the CAO and the controller figure out what the appropriate funds are for the resolution. So we have sort of, is there any, let me go to public comment again. Is there any other public comment on this item? We'll move forward to resolution. Or a poll. One hour in.
And we public comment? Allison County Taxpayer Association. Very good comments. Why not write to the President of the United States and let him trickle back? You can't really make headway with the bureaucracy. Start at the top. And of course, bring our congressmen on board, and also our state senators. Our U.S. senators. It seems like the federal government, the Bureau of Land Management, is claiming ownership of land. There may be some constitutional questions about that, but that's not for discussion right now. But if they are claiming ownership of land, ownership implies not only the right to use the property and control it, it also places an obligation and responsibility of what happens on that property. The BLM is responsible for what happens on BLM property. That's not a hard concept to grasp. And that's the reason why you need to contact the President of the United States and let it trickle down from him. And I think you might find, I understand he's friendly to property rights. You might have some help. Thank you.
Good morning again, Terry McBride, District 2. Congratulations. I would love to see every single one of you guys take a Calaveras County map that is provided by our wonderful Chamber of Commerce. It's really good. I would like to see every single one of you drive down those roads. What I'd really like and what I'd suggest is get it out. Get it on ABC, CBS. Hey, this is what happens after these huge fires. And then the locals and small, including the small governments that don't have a whole lot of money, including ours, especially ours, this is what we're dealing with. Get it out. Make it public. That's how you resolve things. You just got to come out of the little hidey hole, bring it out, make it public, show that BLM is being totally irresponsible, but then also just the fact how dangerous the roads are and that the trees need to be cut down, not just on those 4 properties, but along all the roads. So I really ask, please, take a day. It is, even though it's burnt and charred, it's a beautiful part of our county. You've got wonderful people there. Take a Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce map. and drive all the back roads and see what we are dealing with every single day. Thank you.
I'm Will Moore from Rancho Calaveras, and perhaps Supervisor Mills should have met Secretary Zinke with a bigger bag of money.
Very well, if there's no further public comment, sorry, Mike? You guys gotta get there and stand, I'm gonna move quick.
I'm Mike Falvey, District 2. My personal contacts with BLM over the last 40 years is, if the county's in the same situation I am, let's say, good luck. And from what I've observed of BLM over the last 40-plus years, and I've dealt with them, I'd say, on a fairly regular basis. And when I lived up in Mountain Ranch, I was pretty close to a lot of BLM land, and I had issues with them. They don't even know it's there most of the time. And I think you could go in there, say, a 40-acre plot in the middle of the Butte Fire footprint, and you could probably clear cut it, and they wouldn't even know it. So if they've given you permission to address this situation, and maybe I misunderstood, but apparently we have money in reserves, let's get a contract out. I mean, you have the money. BLM says go for it. BLM doesn't really care. They don't care about us. Go for it. And number two, as far as Mr. Mills, as far as them giving back county to the land or public, maybe public absorbing some BLM land on contiguous parcels, they asked top dollar for those parcels. They asked ridiculous amounts. I know a few people that have approached them about buying parcels adjoining theirs, and they want an arm and a leg for them, so I don't know about that. So anyways, that's my thoughts. Go for it.
Thank you very much. So, Supervisor Mills?
Yeah, I think that maybe we could piggyback this to an additional discussion and have some type of a resolution or some support from the board as a policy statement that when you or anyone else approaches BLM, that these are the ultimate goals that this board has in mind and what we're trying to achieve, so that we're not all over the map with a specific issue, but we're going forward with a singular policy, and that is, and I think that can be included as we poll the board for direction to have staff or to you to start working on what that policy statement would look like.
I think it's a very good question, how we're going to deal with BLM over time, and I know Josh and I have talked about this as well, because we've talked about a master agreement with them to move this thing forward, but at the same time, I'm often cautious. Our local guys, there are only 3 of them. They're not bad, they're just overworked. And there is federal policies, and we should come up with something, but I don't want to mix too many issues when I've got a life and safety one right in front of us. So I would like to seek a poll of this board to have Josh move forward on bringing forward a resolution to this board with an appropriate funding source identified by the CAO and the controller and bring it forward. We're going to have a special meeting on the 15th. So I don't know, 15th or 22nd, when do you want to bring it back to us, Josh?
So, Chair, I do have an item scheduled for January 22nd. It was generated from this desire of having authority to take action in emergency situations such as this. There still is the funding element, so I'll have to work with the auditor and county council and CAO's office to make sure that piece is in place. But I do have a plan of action to bring something to the board on the 22nd that would give me authority to move forward with construction quickly. So let me, after this meeting, I think the direction is pretty clear, come to you sooner rather than later with some sort of action. My goal is to get to the 22nd. We'll see if we can do something the 15th, if it's okay with the board. If 1 extra week's okay, I know this action's here. So let me, if it's all right with you, I'll circle back with the powers that be, and we'll have some sort of action for you on January 22nd, along with additional direction on the next steps necessary to get this work done.
I'm sensing a general consensus by the board. Is there, as a poll, do we want to have a formal poll? Okay. Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yes.
Supper?
Yes.
Yes. Senator?
Yes.
Supervisor Mills? Yes. All right. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 16.
Item 16 is from the Auditor Controller to adopt a resolution adopting Revenue and Taxation Code Section 5105, authorizing payment of certain property tax refunds without a claim for refund being filed.
So this is a new revenue and taxation code that was adopted by legislation effective this January. And what it does is it gives kind of just a more streamlined process for taxpayers to get their refunds that are owed to them. So what I want to make sure everyone's clear about is these are refunds that are not up for debate. They just are. So it is payment of taxes that's in excess of taxes owed. That's it. We're not talking about disagreements on assessed values. We're not talking about if they think their bill is right or not. We're not talking about that. We're talking about all the way to the very end of the process when all the calculations have occurred, all of the authorities have weighed in on their particular activities. And at the very end of the day, there's a bill in the property tax system that says you owe $1,000 and you as the taxpayer paid $1,500. So $1,500, $1,000, we would owe you $500. So this is a mechanism that the board can pass that would allow me as the auditor controller to acknowledge there's a refund on the books and we're going to go ahead and issue the refund to the taxpayer. But in order to do that without a claim for refund, which is another, I feel, bureaucratic step that is just an unnecessary step for a taxpayer, this would alleviate that in most cases. The cases where that wouldn't occur is if there had been a transfer of ownership, and that can cause problems because if a transfer occurred, it's trying to figure out, well, who paid the taxes and at what point were the taxes paid, and if they paid both installments, but we're talking about at what point did the calculations change caused by an assessment change or whatever it is. So when we start getting into that, then we would require a claim for a refund. And then also if the refund was greater than $5,000. Most times, the refunds are significantly less than $5,000. We're talking about a couple $100 here, maybe $1,000. You know, the highest refunds I've ever seen since being the auditor controller, there was two periods of time. One was the calamities because of Butte Fire, and then, if you recall, during the recession. During the peak of the recession, there were massive refunds that went out, and I did come to the board on several occasions because there were some pretty significant refunds that were occurring. But outside of that, most of them are under $5,000.
More questions?
Supervisor Stopper? Yes, sir. Thank you. It's just facilitating the process faster, taking down the claim and that added layer of bureaucracy, so it'll actually save us some money and giving them their money back in the long run also. So
Correct.
it's reducing a cost and giving someone money.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The concern, of course, would be check and balance. And that is the processes that the assessor would go through to determine whether or not a roll correction is necessary, and what processes your office would go through to determine a refund was required. And
So like I said, this covers all the way at the end of the process. So what you're talking about is at the front of the entire tax process, which this assumes all of that has already occurred. So just for edification, what the whole deal with property tax is, it all starts in essence with the assessor. So the assessor is determining what the assessed value is on a parcel, okay? And then there's a lot of other pieces regards to what's on a property tax bill, but just to keep it very simple, because property taxes can be somewhat complicated, we're going to keep it very simple. The assessor determines what the assessed value is, and they sign off on that. They hand that roll over to my office, and they certify it. And then I take that assessment information and I calculate what the taxes are based on those tax rate areas and based on the AB8 factors, which is the spread of the 1% taxes across all the taxing jurisdictions. So under Prop 13, way back when, before I was born, it was determined what that spread was going to be, what that allocation was going to be of that 1%. I know. And so that's when it was determined what fire districts, what portion they were going to get of the pie, okay? And so my office is charged with calculating those AB8 factors based on positive and negative growth, and then distributing that information out and calculating it. Anytime a taxpayer comes forward and says, I think my bill's too high, we have to determine, well, what is it that you think the bill is too high? Because sometimes it's not that the bill is too high necessarily, it's a part of the bill they're arguing with. So it could be they don't think that they should have to pay that bond because they think their address is here and that bond is for Calaveras Unified, and in their head, they're outside of the Calaveras Unified School District, right? And that's where we'll follow back up with the assessor's office to make sure was an error made, that parcel is in the wrong tax rate area, or we try to ascertain if there was a human error or if it just is an addressing. I mean, you did not know that you're in the CUSD district, but you are, okay? Or it could be that a code lien was put on a property, or a direct charge, or a special assessment, or something that they're arguing with. Whenever that happens, we go back to that respective jurisdiction to say, what is the basis for you putting this direct charge on? Is there merit for it, or was it an error? But at no time does my office ever say, hey, John Smith, I think you're absolutely right. We're going to go ahead and take that off for you because I like you. There is always a coordination between agencies and between departments to determine if the charge is valid or invalid. If it is a question of assessment, then we push them to the assessor's office because anyone can have an opinion as to if their assessment is valid or not, but there's only one opinion that matters for purposes of property taxes, and that's hers right there. So if you don't like that opinion, then the administrative remedy for that is to go to the Assessment Appeals Board. And her office and my office and county council and anyone else would tell that taxpayer, you can certainly apply for an appeal, to submit an appeal. And then the Assessment Appeals Board would take over from there. So the checks and balances is determining what the basis is for the question as to why they think their bill is wrong, and then working with that respective agency, jurisdiction, department on the validity of those charges, and then working from there. So at the point that we get here, all that is already done. All of that has already occurred. And we are making sure between my office, the tax collector, and the assessor that the property tax system is all balanced and in coordination and in sync with one another.
Maybe I should have clarified my question. The point is that in the discussion here, it says mistakes discovered by the auditor. And I do know that in certain parcels that district boundary lines bisect parcels, and there's a lot of ambiguity here. It's just, I know there is a number of checks and balances and a roll correction process. I'd like to ensure that there is some type of a check and balance system built into the mistakes that your office uncovers as well.
There is.
Ensuring that, and I don't want to leap here to all the Queen's horses, but we don't want to get into a situation where we cannot prove the mistake was truly a mistake, if you follow what I'm saying.
So we get calls all the time where a property owner, a CSA is a perfect example. I would guess once a year we get a call from a taxpayer that doesn't believe they should be in a CSA. They do not believe they should be in that CSA. And they, will send us letters and come and visit us on a monthly basis because they don't believe they should be in the CSA and they want my office to remove them out of that CSA. I have no authority to remove someone out of a tax rate area. That tax rate area was determined at the formation of that district with LAFCO and that district, and then there was a depending on when that district was formed, there could have been a protest period. We've seen, we've seen it all. And at the end of the day, if that parcel is in that tax rate area as deemed with the formation documents from LAFCO, went to the State Board of Equalization, which then went to the assessor's office, and the assessor has properly placed that parcel in that tax rate area, which we will still validate with the assessor. Can you double check that they're in the right tax rate area? And if they are, then there's nothing more to talk about. And at that point, there's no more remedies that we can offer the taxpayer. And I'm sure county council can bear witness to the fact that, then we let them know we've got someone who is just absolutely adamant they're not supposed to be in that CSA. At that point, they can certainly pursue legal action. And I have yet in my tenure here seen anyone successfully remove themselves out. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is it's deemed that they missed the protest period, whatever it is. So at no point can I remove them. So what we're talking about here is we've gone through all of the necessary actions. And at the end of the day, the system, when we process that rule correction, whatever it is, or we determine a mistake, and when we say mistake, it's not my opinion that it's a mistake. It's a group of different authorities that acknowledge it's a mistake. And then when that happens, then a correction will be made, and then we will process that correction.
That was the words I wanted to hear.
Okay.
It's a group of different authorities. It's not one individual making this call.
No, I don't have a button in my office just
And
issuing
that
refunds.
is the point. I guess that's really what I was trying to get to with all of this.
Yep.
Secondly is that the person that paid the tax is the one that's going to be the refunder. That's where the refund's going. It's not going to the new owner of a parcel or a whole other series of individuals. So you're ensuring us that the person who paid the tax is going to receive the refund.
Yeah,
That
so
is the goal.
that's part of the requirement. I'm requiring the claim for refund if there's been a transfer, because we want the claimant to, in essence, certify that they are the claimant and that the transfer has not occurred. And then the burden of proof is on them to prove that they are the ones who in fact paid the taxes.
I rest my questions.
Thank you. No further questions from the board? Public comment? If you guys can line up, thanks.
I'm Will Moore from Rancho Calaveras, and I don't believe it's possible for any school district or a tax rate area to bisect somebody's parcel. I mean, all of this land is based on the public land surveys. It's all based on the Mount Diablo baseline and meridian, and I don't see how anybody could vary from the public land surveys.
Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I want to commend our county auditor. She's doing a good job in being proactive and not waiting or forcing the property owner to apply for a refund, trying to get it corrected by county staff. I think that's a good thing, and I think she needs to be supported in that. As for boundaries, if you look at an assessor's parcel map, you can, we have a GIS feature with the county, and you'll see that these districts do go through properties. They follow more like section lines rather than property lines. And it's true, the Mount Diablo Basin Meridian is what our section lines are based on, but the districts don't follow the property lines. Property lines change from time to time. Sometimes they get combined, sometimes they get split, and so ownership changes and property lines do change. So the question of whether a property would be in a district or not has to be solved some way. I'm not sure how, but in any case, we want to thank our county auditor and also our assessor, because most of the work here is going to be by the assessor. The assessor is the one that's going to determine the property value, not the controller. Thank you.
I think I just had two questions. Is this repayment done each year, or are we going back years? And how much is in total of this year? Because I assume the money's already been collected, and maybe somebody's depending on that in the general fund, and I'm interested in knowing how much is going to be going out of that pot of money.
Thank you. Is there any other further comment, public comment? And with that, I will close public comment. Any further information want to be provided by the assessor?
I'll answer two of the last questions you were asked. First, the authority of the assessor is to go back for 4 years. There's a statute of limitations. We're allowed to go back 4 years to make corrections to the assessment roll. We can go back however far we need to in the event of fraud. You might guess that I don't pull that card very often. Proving fraud is extremely difficult. However, we do have the authority to go back. So the answer to that, to Bonnie's question, is we generally go back 4 years. To answer her question about how much this year, we don't know. As your board knows, we are having difficulty filling our professional ranks given your salaries that you're paying for entry-level people with bachelor's degrees. And so we're behind. We continue to be behind, and most of the work that we are doing is roll corrections. What this will do, and I think it's critically important for those of you who remember what happened with disabled veterans exemptions, the legislature passed a law that allowed disabled veterans exemptions to go back 8 years because of the difficulty of filing for that. We had to come get the board's authority to process those as a roll correction, because claims for refund are onerous and they are difficult for the average taxpayer. It is so much easier for us to process a roll correction and forward it to the auditor. So she is really looking for a more efficient way to do this. And the other question that was asked had to do with tax rate areas. And while I appreciate Al attempting to answer that question, the reality is we spend a good deal of time in my office looking at LAFCO applications, looking at planning applications, looking at lot line applications, and responding to planning and public works and telling them that they are creating a situation where a tax rate area will in fact transect a regular parcel. So there are many, many parcels in Calaveras County where we have 2 assessor parcel numbers on 1 legal parcel. It is extremely confusing to the public, but it is how we are required to show those parcels on the assessment roll. So while I appreciate the comments, state law is ever so slightly different from what you might think how it should work.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other public comment, and that's closed. Rebuttal. Is there a motion? Controller Collin, did you have more to say?
I'll make a motion to adopt California Revenue and Taxation Code 5105.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Tofinelli. Any further discussion by the board? Therefore, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Number 17. Did I skip something?
No. Yes, thank you. Item 17 is from the Auditor Controller to introduce and waive reading of an ordinance rescinding the existing County Code Section 2.60.005 entitled Property to be Inventoried and replacing it with a new section 2.60.005 entitled Property to be Inventoried, which will reduce equipment thresholds and establish other capital thresholds, and approve a summary publication.
So this is an item that I have been working for years to try to bring forward, but we've, every year I would be working with the administrative office to try to determine the best method and thresholds and everything, and by the time, it seems like we're getting ready to unveil it and bring it forward, I'm working with a new CAO. So I decided I'm just going to bring it forward. At current, we have the established ordinance, which is $10,000. And that made sense at the time that it was brought forward, because it was, if you go back through the history, at one point it was like 500, and then it was changed to 1,000, and then it was increased to 2,500, then it was 5,000, and then it was 10,000. It has stayed at 10,000. And that is actually, it was helpful because it means less burdensome work for the Auditor Controller's Office and departments and purchasing. But the Federal Office of Management and Budget decided, for some reason, that $5,000 is the appropriate threshold with regards to a federal threshold related to indirect cost plan. And the indirect cost plan is one of the major revenue sources for general fund central service departments. And with that, in order to comply with OMB's standard, which is the CFR 200 uniform guidance, it is a requirement to lower our threshold to back to $5,000 for equipment. And what's interesting is when this was unveiled at one of our auditors' conferences, every single auditor controller, kind of gasped. I mean, you can imagine a $5,000 limit for the county of Riverside or LA County or Ventura. And this is a ridiculous threshold. This is very, very small. And for us, it's very small. But for some reason, the federal government chose that number to be the number. So in order for us to comply and make sure that we are in full compliance for establishing our indirect cost plan, this is the safest route, is to go ahead and lower that equipment threshold to $5,000. At the same time, we have no thresholds for the other types of assets that we inventory, which is infrastructure, construction in progress projects, structures and improvements. So consider if you were to build a building or if you were to improve a building, okay, or land. All of those are silent. So what it means is I'm having to subjectively work with the administrative department, and at the lowest level, since we have no limit established, any number is the amount that we have to enroll. So anything that would be an improvement to a building would be an enrollable event. So you can imagine the amount of work that my office and administration and departments are having to do when we're talking about a $1,500 improvement to a building. That's just kind of a ridiculous number. So when we kind of looked at what was a more appropriate threshold for these types of events, and when you think about infrastructure, you're thinking about roads, bridges. You're never going to have an infrastructure project for $1,500, right? You're going to have, it's going to be a very large dollar amount. So based on our annual revenue, what I'm proposing is that we would actually establish a minimum threshold for infrastructure for $100,000, a minimum threshold for construction in progress of $50,000, for structures and improvements of $25,000, and then for land, it would be 0. So if someone donated us a piece of property, even though it's free, it's like if someone gives you a dog, it's not free. There's always going to be a cost associated with it, okay? So when someone's going to donate land to us, or give us land, or whatever, however we acquire land, there's always an assumed cost to that land. It could be that you're taking on, unbeknownst to you, a super fund that you probably don't want. It could be that there is ongoing maintenance that you're going to have to deal with that land. So that's why the basis for land, anywhere that I've researched, there is no low threshold on land. Any land would have to be considered capital, not for purposes of depreciation, but for purposes of the board recognizing it as an asset. Okay? So this would greatly alleviate work in my office for having to chase around, $100, $200, $1,500 expenses throughout a year that I don't really deem capital events, but they are because we don't currently have a lower limit threshold. But it will also alleviate the administrative office from having to kind of formulate all of these things as capital when they really, it's almost like we're kind of tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, is kind of what I consider it. So we based these thresholds on GASB requirements, on GFOA information, and also looking at other counties that were of similar size, kind of similar size of budget, and what they are using for their thresholds. So it's kind of a best practice basis. We can establish any threshold we want, but this is my recommendation. And regardless, the threshold for equipment is absolutely based on the federal basis for capital equipment.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Tofinelli.
No.
Supervisor Mills.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to at some point consider salvage value in this discussion in the future.
All salvaged value is included in the basis of accounting for capital. So when we look at enrollment of a capital asset, we always consider salvaged value because salvaged value would reduce the amount of capital that we would enroll.
Some of the counties actually include that in their document
Okay.
as salvage value. The other thing is that other counties are using what's called useful life or a value. So they give, for instance, computers and peripherals a useful life of 3 years. Some of them stretch out to 15 years. They are kind of all over the map on what that number of years of useful life is.
So we will include that in our procedure document based on best practices, but not from a policy perspective as adopted by the board. And so we will have that information in our capital asset procedural guide that will be based on these thresholds. But those useful lives are somewhat dependent on best practices that change. So I didn't make that be part of a policy to be adopted by the board.
But at some point, I'd like to see that included in that discussion somewhere. I know that in some of the counties, there was an infrastructure useful life of 50 years. So it's just having that statement included so that everybody's clear and understanding that what does the depreciation schedule look like? What is this going to be at the ultimate end of the line, so to speak?
And that will all be that's all included in our capital asset procedural guide.
So I had a chance to look at OMB A-133 as part of my research on this thing, which I thought was kind of an interesting document all by itself. So I had asked for supporting documents for this, and I was hoping that I would receive it before the meeting today. So hopefully as this goes forward, you'll be able to provide us the supporting documents for it.
You had asked for
The documents to support what you had in front of us today.
So I sent you kind of excerpts specifically from GFOA and what GASB's statements were. And you had asked if GASB 34, if there was an updated statement, which there is not. That's an existing statement from many, many years ago. GASB is in the process of doing a restatement of GASB 34, which will probably be GASB 107, but it's still in the works, and I don't have any ETI on when that's going to be completed. So most of the information that's in here is based on what, like I said, what other counties of similar budget size are utilizing based on the GASB threshold of revenues, annual revenues for a jurisdiction of our size.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. We'll open up public comment. Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I do have a couple questions. Rebecca, when I'm looking at your documentation here on your structures, establishes a threshold for structures and improvements of $25,000. Is that in the fiscal year or each project?
Each project.
Each project. So I could split projects up.
So
and have a $24,000 project, and then a month later do another $24,000 project, and even though it's intertwined with this other one, it would be separate. So how are we distinguishing between?
Yeah, so we look at everything as a one project. So is it a building? So we wouldn't allow you to say, well, this year I'm just going to pay for the left side of the building, and then next year I'm going to pay for the right side of the building. We look at it as a building. So regardless, we're asking, what is the total cost of the building? And part of this is, working with administration at the point when a department's going to bring forward their plan, is what's the real cost? What is the true cost of this thing, whatever it is? Is a building, it's a software implementation that we're going to own, it's a remodel, whatever it is. And we don't want to hear what your fiscal year costs are going to be. We want to know what the span of the project is going to be, like how much time are we talking about, and what the total costs for that entire project are going to be. Because we're looking at all of it. And even if it takes 5 years to get it completed, the jail and the Sheriff's Administration building are a perfect example. That took years to get completed. We just kept adding to that construction in progress until it was done, and then we enrolled the whole value, even though it was over a multitude of years. So when we're looking at that type of activity, that's when we're coordinating with the administrative office and determining, is this a construction in progress, or is this something that can be put together in one fiscal year? It starts on July 1st, it ends on June 30th, we're done, we enroll it, move on. So part of this is having a very frank conversation with departments, looking at source documents, where they're getting their information from, why they think the cost is going to be what the cost is, and then properly putting it in terms of budget where it's supposed to land. And then my office is really going through all the records to determine, are these components really capital? Are these maintenance? Is this really part of this project over here? And we will find invoices throughout a year that will say it's it's maintenance for this, just regular, don't worry about it stuff.
Replace the carpet.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. And we will really kind of pull the layer off, and we'll go, oh, no. What that is related to this project over here, and so that should have been with this over here. So
there is checks and balances
there is
on
major
this.
checks and
We
balances.
can't split it up and, okay.
No.
All right, that was my question.
To people's dismay, yes.
Thank you.
And with that, I will move this item.
Thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Tofinelli,
I'll second that.
second by Supervisor Stopper. Already had public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Number 18.
Item 18 is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors to adopt the 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting calendar. So before you in your agenda packet is a proposed calendar for 2019. What is proposed is that we have meetings on the second Tuesday, the third Tuesday, and the fourth Tuesday of each month, with few exceptions. I would like to make a correction to the month of February in your packet, because it has indicated that the 3 meetings would be the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th, which is incorrect. It would be the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. I just highlighted the wrong week, so that was the correction. The calendar would include scheduling or allowing for budget hearings the week of June 11th through June 14th. It would also, at this time, include only 2 meetings in the month of December, as the first, of course, December 24th is a county holiday, so that would have been the 4th Tuesday. And if we bumped to the first Tuesday of that month, that is the week of the CSAC conference. And we have, in the last couple of years, not held a meeting during that time. So that is what's before you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions by the board?
November is the
It's on.
You're on.
November shows the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Is that
That is correct.
what we'd be doing because of the 26th?
The 27th, or the 28th is Thanksgiving Day, and the 29th is the day after, which are both county holidays, and we historically do not meet during the week of Thanksgiving.
Supervisor Stopper?
Is this a good time to discuss what we're doing with the second meeting of the month and so on, or are we going to dedicate that to a study session, and with possible items that need to be applied, so on and so forth?
Supervisor Stopper, I have been thinking about the same question. How do we use the study session effectively? And I would propose that since it's not an agenda item today, that we bring it back at our next meeting and have a discussion about what are the topics that we want to study and in what timeline. I know we've all got a lot of issues. Everybody's got issues, right? But the board's got issues we've got to take on and study, and I'm hoping we could have a healthy conversation on that.
So, Mr. Chair, this is to adopt the dates.
Right.
And if you
Understood.
wanted to designate, let's just say, the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which last year, for the first half of the year, we designated that day for specific items. It was not open to any item of county business. And then for the second half of the year, we designated it for any item of county business. So I think today you could definitely designate whether it was going to be that 3rd Tuesday or whatever was going to be designated for specific types of items. You do not have to designate what the items are as part of this item.
Okay. I would propose that we move forward with that second Tuesday for study session, and then I would really like to have an agenda item at our next meeting where we could sort of unpack what we want to study, because it's going to be, we want to make sure they're effectively used and meet the priorities of the board as a whole.
So just to clarify, do you mean when you say the second Tuesday, do you mean the second Tuesday of the month, or the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which would be the second time you meet? There is a difference.
The 3rd Tuesday.
Okay,
as
thanks.
you have it set on that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Stopper, you have further questions?
No, I'm good with that. I would make a motion unless somebody else has something to say.
We're talking, just to be clear here, since we had all this conversation, we're talking about the 15th of January, correct? We're going to look at adopting this calendar as it is, with the exception of February and moving the highlighted down. And the conversation was going towards the 15th of January, which is next Tuesday, and whether we're going to meet on that day as a special meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear, so everybody's clear and everybody out there is clear what we're discussing here. So if that's the case, then unless there's other discussion, I see Supervisor Callaway's lights on. And we have to open it up for public comment, so why don't we open that up before we make a motion on moving forward?
Okay, but just to clarify, you're correct. We're looking at the 15th, and my suggestion is that we discuss this in depth on the 5th, the special meeting. Public comment.
From what I can hear right now, these are all day meetings that you're putting on the calendar. Is there any, has any thought been given to the night meetings that we've talked about in the past, and when they might be periodically scheduled, and how they might rotate through the county so that night meetings could be held in different districts so that residents of that district can attend that night meeting? So, especially if there's something that pertains to that district. So if you had a District 2 item at a night meeting, you wouldn't want to have that in Copperopolis, for instance. You'd try to get the issues and the people at a special meeting put together at the same time. And I don't know if that's something you want to adopt now, or the concept of it, or do we just have to wait and see how it plays out and say, well, maybe we need a night meeting for it, and let the board decide that? Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody, and may we have a productive 2019. I back up what Bill says. We really, in our community, and I'm a volunteer for 3 organizations here, we all have jobs, we all have lives, and we need to have our evenings available to access you. You are our voice for what we want done. We need to have productivity. Productivity can be done at night. I know you guys have lives too, I understand that. But we as taxpayers and citizens here want to see what you guys are planning. And we can't always depend on our computers or our TVs. We would like to make it an open door policy that you guys do at least one night meeting a month if possible. I know that's hard, but that's just that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Back when you all decided to go from 4 meetings a month to 2 meetings a month, I thought it would be a real good idea to fill in one of those empty times when you would have met otherwise with town hall meetings, where alternating supervisors would be available at the same times you had regular meetings to broach subjects, receive comments, and open discussion. And that would be my suggestion once again also, that you make yourselves available to the public through a series of town hall meetings on with alternate supervisors on the times when you would otherwise be having regular supervisor meetings. That way people can have a schedule and have a pattern where they know what to expect. Thank you.
Good morning, Marty Crane. Welcome, welcome. I seem to recall some time ago when we first started having the night meetings, it was lots and lots of discussion in this very room, packed house. Everybody was very passionate about it. And the solution was that there's only 5 Tuesdays, there are only 4 times when a 5th Tuesday happens in the year. And that was when we decided to do it. And they worked beautifully at first when we scheduled things on there that pertained to the students, because we had a lot of students coming. But as soon as we didn't take them into consideration, there was nothing interesting. So I think it behooves the board to say, hey, we want those young people to come here. We talk about it all the time. Where are they? Where are they? Well, you got to talk about things that interest them. And so it worked well while we were doing that, and then all of a sudden we weren't, and we didn't reach out to them. You can't just expect that they'll show up. You got to reach out to the schools and let them know what's on the agenda and say, come on down, we want to hear you. Anyway, so it was because there are only 4 times in a year when there's a 5th Tuesday, and it didn't interrupt with anybody else's meetings because nobody schedules anything on the 5th Tuesday. So, thank you.
Terry McBride, District 2. I mentioned this before, and I hope that you'll consider this. On the agenda, it says general comments, don't quote me, pretty much if it doesn't pertain to what's going to be discussed on the agenda. We have a lot of working folk in this county. Like Terry Weatherby came in at 9 o'clock, and I guarantee you he drove back to work all day. And you have business owners that your decisions make a big impact on. And if you would consider allowing folks, and not to take advantage of it, of course, that most of us that have a little more time and are able to be here for the agenda items, respect this is for folks that are on a limited time to be able to speak their 3 minutes about something that is on the agenda, but they can't take the day off of work. And there's a lot of folks that are like that. And so I really would love, especially as things come up this year, I'm quite sure they will, that you allow those that simply cannot take the time off of work to be able to say their 3 minutes regarding the agenda. Because like I noticed Marita's sitting there and just writing away like crazy, thank you, because it means it matters what we're saying, you will really consider doing that. I know it's kind of bending the rules, but I think you'll get more input from the locals and especially business folks. Thank you.
Alice Gallant, Taxpayer Association. I think what you're doing makes sense with the schedule you put together. Also, Bonnie made some good points about having special meetings or forums or which would pertain to a particular item of interest to perhaps citizens in one particular area or another, or on the county as a whole. But you've been doing that in the past, and it's worked pretty good. And also, we, thanks to Susan, we have TV coverage of these meetings. So if someone was interested in learning what goes on here, they would merely go to Channel 9 and find out. And if you have scheduled board meetings, you have to also have staff. What's the use of having a board meeting if you have no staff? And so you have to plan on them being here, which means they'll have to be paid overtime or whatever. And it may be that the subject of the meeting would be no different than it would be if you just had a regular meeting during the day. And so it sounds like a good idea to have meetings on in the evenings, especially for high school kids that could attend. But when you look at the practicalities of it, it doesn't really make sense. So we would recommend you follow the recommendations that you have before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comment, I'll close public comment. Bring it back to the board for the discussion.
I just want to bring up something I learned at the recent New Supervisors Institute in CSAC. It's California law and mandated that we meet at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, but we are allowed to do that other meeting during the evening. Typically, from my experience, because I have shown up to those meetings in the past when they did have them, attendance did drop off drastically.
Further discussion or a motion?
Could I just make one comment for your consideration? That is, there was a comment made about rotating night meetings within the different districts of the county. We are unable to live stream from any place other than right here. So if we were going to do any kind of live streaming, we would be limited to this location. That doesn't mean that a video could not be uploaded after the fact to the website. but it's just something for you to keep in mind when you're thinking about that.
Chair, I would move then that making the changes in February to correct would be the only changes that we would make, and to adopt the schedule as shown.
Motion by Supervisor Mills. Is there a second?
Does that include the 15th?
No. Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify what his motion is. I will second.
Before we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. Madam Clerk, can we keep going or we do a break? All right, let's keep going.
Is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors to assign members of the Board of Supervisors to various committees for calendar year 2019. So this item is where you decide who of yourselves are representatives on what groups, JPAs, committees and commissions, and other organizations of which we have a Board of Supervisor representative to that membership. So if you'd like, we can just start at the top with the Area 12 Agency on Aging and go from there.
Madam Clerk, if I might, with the board, when we go through these, if people have a preference, let's just, everybody put their chips out there. If there's some sort of a conflict and two people want the same job, we can probably circle back on that or figure it out. We'll just have a discussion as we move through it. By my math, each of us are allotted about just over 5 of these, so we'll try to distribute the workload as best we can amongst our teams. Supervisor Tofanelli?
Yeah, I would like to remain on the committees that I'm working on now.
Okay. Well, do you want me to walk through this, or do you want to read through it?
It doesn't matter. What we do need to make sure that we do is that in every instance there is a board representative. In some instances there are 2 board representatives, and in every instance there is an alternate.
Okay. So, with your permission,
Mr. Chair, I would like to echo that to stay on the committees that I'm on, there is a lot of work that's being accomplished by some of these committees, and I see some continuity that would be lost.
Oh, I agree with you, gentlemen, and there are committees I want to stay on too, but let's go through them and let's see who else wants to get in there.
If you could, for transparency purposes, as we go through each one, if you could just state, I currently serve on that and would like to continue, that would help us, the public, and it would help me to keep track better.
Okay. So our first one is Agency 12 Aging, Area 12 Agency on Aging, JPA.
I'll take it.
All right. Anybody else want that?
I'll go for the alternate.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Amador-McCalmy River Authority. I would like to stay, I'm on there now. I'd like to stay on there. Anybody else want to join?
And I've been involved in it as well. I'd like to stay.
Anybody else?
I'm the alternate, and you guys both never missed a meeting apparently, so. But I'll remain as alternate. If somebody else would like to, that's fine, but if not, I'll stay as alternate.
That work for everybody?
So,
That's fine.
so that would be that Supervisor Garamendi and Supervisor Mills are the representatives, and Supervisor Toffenelli is the alternate.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Calaveras Public Power Agency. Supervisor Tofanelli's been the rep on there. I've been the alternate.
And I would like to remain.
I'll take the alternate if you don't.
There are 2 reps for that one.
There's 2 reps. Are there 2 reps?
No, there's not.
There's 1.
There's only 1.
That was a typo on that.
Sorry, my typo.
Rita? That sounds great.
I'll be the alternate.
That's Tofanelli as the board rep and Callaway as the alternate. Central Sierra Economic Development District. Interest? That was led by Oliveira last year.
What days do they meet on? How often do they meet?
I'm not,
Monthly.
I'm sorry, I think they meet monthly, and I'm not sure.
All these are monthly.
I show interest in repping for that if no one else is interested.
Everybody okay?
I'll be the alternate.
All right. Stopper as the representative, Callaway as the alternate. Central Sierra Child Support Agency, JPA. That is,
I'll take it.
okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm on that. I'd like to stay on that.
Okay.
Who's your alternate?
The
Anybody-
alternate was Garamendi.
Anybody interested in being the alternate or being one of the representatives?
I am.
You're on the board. You're the representative. So we got,
Before Gary said he's on.
No, there's two.
Two.
There's
We got
two supervisors on that committee that meet. And then there's an alternate.
I'll take alternate unless someone has interest in it.
I do.
Oh, no, you're the head honcho on the back.
We're both.
You got two head honchos.
No, we got two head of honcho.
You're both. You guys are the team.
Thank you.
Children and Family First Five, I would love to stay on this committee if it's all right with you folks. It's a great group and honestly feel better after leaving that meeting than any others I go to.
I'll alternate for you if that's okay with everyone else.
Hey, we could share the love. There you go. Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency, JPA. That was Supervisor Mills and Supervisor Olvera. There are two slots on there. Who has an interest?
Plus an alternate.
Plus an alternate. Want to stay on there, Dennis, or?
I can stay on there if there is no other interest. I do need an additional person.
Right, anybody else?
It does meet here in San Andreas. Occasionally, you have to go to Mariposa.
And if nobody volunteers, we're going to circle back at the end and we're going to draft people.
I'd like to see where I'm at, but I do have interest, but I don't want to overload myself too soon.
All right, well, let's circle back on that one. That's all right. So Supervisor Mills and Madam Clerk will circle back. CSAC.
I'd like to be the representative on CSAC.
I would like to alternate that. I have interest in being the rep, but I would defer to Marita on that and alternate as long as we would consider, me being able to attend.
Is there anybody else who has interest in that? All right. Marita and Ben, we'll probably have to have it. Will it be adopted so we can send it on? Calaveras Council of Governments.
I would like to stay on the committee.
I would like to stay on too, and see that through.
I showed interest for District 5 being on it. These two gentlemen have been doing it for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to step on either gentleman's toes, but I would like to have the opportunity to represent District 5 through COG.
So what about being the alternate?
You want to be the alternate, or you want to, we could
Start
debate?
to really get into
Right.
doing.
That
There
would
Take the
get-
alternate?
I'll take the alternate, definitely. That way I can
Next
start my learning curve.
There's a lot
So it's
to learn there.
Tofinelli, Mills, and Stopper as the alternate.
Got it.
DEP Advisory Committee.
I currently serve on that.
Anybody else have interest in it?
I'll be the alternate.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's Eastside San Joaquin GSA.
I currently serve on that. We are coming to a conclusion in January 2020, so there's a lot of work that we've got to finish up this year. Our meeting is tomorrow morning. Would you like to be the alternate?
Yeah, I show a lot of interest in everything they do, and I also my district also borders San Joaquin County, so I do show an interest over there also, but I'm getting a lot of alternates, so.
You'll learn.
All right, so that works for you, Ben? You okay with being the alternate?
Yeah, as long as they're okay taking the lead.
Okay. Did you get that? Fish and Game Commission. I really enjoyed this, but as chairman, I have a lot more to take care of. I served on it before, but so if anybody has interest in it and wants to throw their shoulder in there, we're happy to help
It's
advise.
very active.
Well, it's changing, so we'll figure it out. Ben, you want to take it on?
Sure, I'll take it on for you.
All right. Are you interested in being the alternate?
I'll be the alternate.
All right. Hardwood Advisory Committee.
Now, that meets once a year,
That's an annual meeting?
annual meeting.
Everybody's hand goes up at once?
Clay.
Are they doing anything?
Yes, we had a meeting in December.
Or did you do anything?
Yes. There's a complete report out from the various agencies that are involved. It spans a whole broad spectrum of public and private interests.
I have been working with the Ag Commissioner to propose a reorganization of members that will be coming to you in a meeting sometime in the near future.
That is something I've been interested in for a while. There's a lot of stuff coming forward on the oak trees and everything else. So if you're not interested in Rita, I will step up to that.
I guess for me, a committee needs to be productive, not just to have a list of committees on a resume or to have a supervisor show up. So, I mean, I remember when it started and how it started and why it started. I didn't know, Dennis said there's still a need. Hey, I'm in, but
So
I just thought I'd ask.
at this point, it does have
2 reps.
2 reps with an alternate.
I've been one of the representatives. You got it on. I have been one of the representatives on the committee. However, there's others that have interest in it. I'll certainly become an alternate.
Ben wants to be on it and with you, and then I'll be an alternate.
That's
Does that work for
acceptable.
everybody?
That's fine.
Thank you.
Good. IHS Advisory Committee. It's an ex officio member, so it's non-voting. Everybody at once? All right. We're going to put an asterisk and we're going to circle back on that one. Is that all right with everybody? Law Library Trustee.
So just if I could interject on this one, this position for a Board of Supervisors representative can be a Board of Supervisors member, or it can be a representative designated by the Board of Supervisors. This last year, it was a member designated by the Board of Supervisors. So that's up to you.
A staff member?
No, a member of the public.
Has this person showed interest in continuing?
Well, all of the terms expired on December 31st, and one member has reapplied. So not that one.
Having served several times on it, I don't know where it is now. I mean, maybe council could. It was sort of floundering, and the whole law library scenario has changed.
Generally, the representative historically, the representative has been the chair, and then the alternate is the vice chair. But that is my recollection. I have not looked at this committee in a very long time, that can be delegated away from those positions, but that is something that we can certainly look into and report back.
Could it be done by staff?
I know that the board has previously appointed somebody else from my office to sit on this commission before, not as the chair or as the representative of the board, but as a member of the trustee, or that is actually a trustee of the committee.
Are they still doing that?
I believe so.
Yeah, actually, it was Sarah.
So, we can appoint Sarah to continue to be our representative on that board?
No, that's not what the case is.
No. Okay, so it's the chair and vice chair have traditionally been there, so we can move on. That's that one, right? All right.
So is that what you would like to do for 2019?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Unless somebody wants, in which case I'm happy to delegate. Mr. Stopper, you got a smile over there.
It's, today with the internet and everything the way it is, it's there. It doesn't get used a lot. I mean, I'll take it. I have no problem with that. I'll do it if you're willing to defer to me.
I am willing to defer to you.
All right, I'll take it.
I'll be the alternate.
Thank you, Maria.
The law library trustee.
Okay, local area formation, LAFCO.
And I would like to stay on this. Supervisor Oliveira was on it before. There is 2 board members for this committee.
Anybody else have an interest?
I was the alternate last year. I'll stay on as the alternate.
Do you want to stay on it? Do you want
No, I was the alternate last year. I will continue to work as the alternate to cover for you.
All right, so we got Supervisor Callaway, Supervisor Tofinelli, and Supervisor Mills as the alternate. Mental Health Board, I would like to stick with this group. I've had a good 2 years working with them, and I find the content interesting. Anybody else? Thank you.
We need an alternate for
Oh,
it.
we need alternate. Anybody want an alternate on this? It's a good group.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on one. They're very active.
McCalmy River Association. I'm, I represent the majority of the McCalmy River in the county. I would like to stay on.
This isn't UMRA, so I'm not sure this is is this the one, Diane, that's not active?
No, they meet quarterly. We have a meeting on Friday.
You do? Okay. Because there was, yeah, okay. This is not UMRA.
No,
No.
Okay.
it's not a heavy lift, but it's interesting. Motherlode Job.
Wait, so we need an alternate?
Alternate to McCalmy River Association. There you go, a little piece of that river.
Sure, we had Mills. If he's not interested, I'll go.
Dennis?
If you would prefer to do it,
That's fine. I'll do it.
Okay. Motherlode Job Training Agency, JPA.
I'm interested in that if no one else is.
That work for everybody? All right.
We need an alternate?
We need alternate for it?
I'll be an alternate for it.
Gary?
I've been on it before.
Mountain County's Water Resources Agency.
I've been on it. I would like to continue to serve.
I show interest in that arena.
All right. So we got Ben, Supervisor Stopper, and Supervisor Mills, both interested in it. Shall we asterisk it and circle back? If you guys want to talk about the pluses and minuses of it? You want to work it out? All right.
Oh, there's a lot going on.
We'll circle back on that one. Mountain Valley Emergency Medical Services, JPA.
I would like to remain on that. There's a contract coming up shortly in the next year and a half for ambulance service here, and we're working on an RFP on that. I'm very involved in it, so I would like to at least see that through.
And I would like to continue. I think I'm the alternate on that.
Okay.
So I'd like to
Anybody else
continue.
have interest in being the alternate or running? Okay, so Supervisor Tofinelli, Mountain Valley Emergency Medical Services, and Mills as the alternate. NACO. Right.
Could I interject and give a little bit of information on this one?
NACO, yeah.
Okay, so the NACO representative is a new representative for us in the last 3 years. We are members of NACO through Health and Human Services. They provide, I believe, some kind of dental benefits program that we administer and that kind of thing. However, we are not required by NACO to have a Board of Supervisor representative on that board. They have an annual conference. It's national, so in the last few years, it's always been out of state. There are quite a bit of costs associated with that attendance. So just putting it out there.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that, we didn't have the budget for CSAC this year, so none of us went down. And this does have a cost. So does anybody have any interest, or you guys want to have a discussion about whether we even want to appoint someone to this?
The point is if we do appoint somebody and they go, it could be quite an expense just for that single trip.
Right, we could probably cover everybody going to CSAC for the cost of that trip.
And literally, it takes away a week, so that person would not be available during that week. So,
What do you guys think? Do we want to leave it vacant, or do we want to fill it? Does anybody have a real burning interest in it?
Yes, but leave it vacant.
I'd be in favor of leaving it vacant for right now.
I concur.
I agree.
Would you like me to leave it on the list so that it can be reconsidered at another date? And we'll just mark it as vacant?
I would just leave it on the list and mark it vacant.
Thank
You
you.
never know what could come up with that, so.
Okay.
An issue.
Keeps us options. Okay, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 regional council, RCRC, Local Government Finance Authority, Environmental Services, Rural Home Mortgage Finance Authority. Those are all RCRC organization groups, so they all happen in the same meeting. I really enjoyed serving on that. I'm moving into hopefully, I'll be chairing the Resources and Water Committee this year. So I'd really like to stick with it. I think we're making progress. Unless anybody,
Well, I heard you did a good job, so.
Who was the alternate last year?
I'm the alternate
Gary's
on
the
it.
alternate.
You want
So
to
I'm fine with staying.
All right, so.
Now, that doesn't preclude all of the supervisors from going to the,
No, you guys are welcome. Mayor
The big
Pro Tem sometimes
shindig.
sends out there for.
Yeah, they do.
exactly.
I don't know whether they've got other business going on that day.
Alpine has a couple once in a while too.
So, okay, so RCRC, those 4 committees, Madam Clerk, I'll take. Solid Waste Task Force.
I was
I would show interest in being primary on that, if you're okay with that, Dennis.
as long as I'm the alternate, it is, Rock Creek is in my district, so.
Okay, so if you're okay with that?
That's right there
And
on the
Red
line,
Hills
huh?
on my district. Yes, Rock Creek is in my district.
Okay, so Stopper will be the primary, Mills will be the alternate for solid waste. Treasurer's Oversight Committee.
I was the representative.
Okay, I'll be his alternate.
Meets once a quarter.
Anybody else have interest? No? Okay, so Mills as the primary and Callaway as the alternate. Tree Mortality Task Force, Governor and local, does this still exist?
I think that it was winding down. It's kind of morphed into something different. Supervisor Oliveira had a passion for that and was our representative, and we decided that the chair would be the alternate. However, I think it is something different now. I don't think that it is the same entity that it was this time last
Because
year.
I know it changed the governor's office, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, Chair, we leave this vacant. We may have to redefine it
Yeah.
at some point in the future.
Is everybody okay with that?
That's fine. There's not really much county representation the way it's morphed into right now, so.
You've been-
A lot,
you've been
from what I
following.
understand, a lot of the money's not there anymore also, so
Well, let's leave it vacant for now.
Okay,
and we'll
can do
circle
that.
back. UC Cooperative Extension Advisory Council, looks like it's the chair and vice chair traditionally.
okay.
Right.
I was just curious what that entails.
Never attended a single meeting
Yeah.
Okay.
last year. None, zero.
I'll double check with Scott Oneto that it is still in existence and what the expectation is. We can always come back at a future meeting and make an appointment if necessary, if you'd like, or you can make an appointment now.
Yeah, I'm probably fine with it staying chair and vice chair, but I am curious, is it dealing with our money we're paying Delta for Mountain House that we aren't able to have? No, it doesn't deal with anything like
The
that.
UC Cooperative is really involved with ag, the farm advisor, 4-H, those things
Okay.
are under that umbrella.
So let's
Understood.
keep it
That's
as-
great.
Let's
That's
just
better
keep it as chair and vice chair. That's
why I was asking.
And I'll check with Scott.
Okay, I'm Ron. I'm the current board rep. I would like to stay on as board rep. Supervisor Mills is the alternate. Is there anybody else interested in being the board rep?
And they're doing a lot of great things. Very active.
How about the?
You know, I have a passion for the water thing also, but again, you know, if you guys are good with dealing with that, Jack, you're on the McCall. I just have family that live on it now. And
Would you rather be the alternate there, and then I'll take Mountain Counties as a primary, and you can be the alternate for that?
I think that would be a decent trade-off. And the other one, would you be willing to let me be the alternate on with you also, so that I
Sure.
could hit planning learning curve?
Sure.
You guys want to both be alternates? I don't think.
No, we're
He-
making
was-
a deal here.
He's buying me for the other position also, so I'll take alternate for that. And then, we just resolved the other issue on the other one that we bypassed earlier. He will take primary and I'll take alternate on that.
Which
Okay,
one?
so we'll get back to that one. Let's
Yeah, we
take
have
care
to
of this
get
one
that.
first.
Okay, so we
please.
got Garamendi
Doesn't mean you can't
and
attend.
Stopper.
Stopper
Okay.
for this. Which one did you
We're
guys?
going back to Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency is the first.
I'm the only one I think that's on it right
You're
now.
the
Yes.
one we're looking for
We
one
need a
more
second
body.
representative and an alternate.
Need two more.
Which, let me ask really quick, just, I don't want to jump ahead, but which did you guys just resolve?
Mountain Counties.
Okay,
I'll be the primary and Mr. Stopper will be the alternate.
okay, thanks. So we're back to
CMCAA.
CMCA, we need one more, we need a volunteer.
We need a rep and an alternate, please.
We've got CMCA was a.
It has 2 reps and
right.
1 alternate.
Yeah, and I'll stay as alternate.
How often do they meet, Dennis?
Once a quarter
Once a quarter? And,
in San Andreas.
okay, and I'm also, I'll sit on that with you.
There you go.
So you'll be the
CMCA.
second rep?
Yes.
Okay.
So Mills is the primary, Stopper is the secondary, Tofinelli is the alternate.
Okay. So jumping ahead, just to solidify, Mountain County's water resource, Supervisor Mills is going to be the representative, and Supervisor Stopper is going to be the alternate for that one as well.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So what we have left is the IHSS Advisory Committee. It's an ex officio member. We need 1 board member and 1 alternate.
I'll stay as the alternate.
Who's got the least on the list?
Jack was the lead.
I don't think I got a place. I got to go back. I've got to, we'll count them up. I guess we could add, but, no, I just served on that last year.
I show that Supervisor Callaway has 3 primary designations. That Supervisor Garamendi has 7. That Supervisor Toffenelli has 3. No,
No,
4,
no.
5, I'm
5,
sorry. Yes,
5.
5, I'm sorry about that. And we'll add 1 more. Supervisor Callaway has an additional, so that's 4. And Supervisor Mills. Supervisor Mills has 7. And Supervisor Stopper has 6.
What do you think, Rita?
I'm not interested.
All right.
I mean, luckily.
Gary, would you be willing, you've been alternate, would you be willing to?
I'll be your alternate, Tofinelli.
Take
Or
1.
Supervisor Stopper?
Wait a minute, if she'll be my alternate, then I can delegate, so. So I'm good for that, yes, okay.
He just won't be there.
I like it, yes, okay, fine.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. So we have Supervisor Tofinelli as the primary and Supervisor Callaway as the alternate.
Okay, it looks like that fills all of the vacancies. So I think for clarity, it would probably just be good to have a motion and a second and a vote for what you have decided.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Oh, wait,
And
we have
public
public
comment.
comment. We have to have public
Is there any
comment.
public comment, if anybody was able to follow what just happened?
Marty Crane, Secretary for the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. Serving the most fragile and citizens, residents in our community in need of help, and there's zero interest in our board. I'm very disappointed. Well, I mean, it feels like there is zero interest from our board, because this is the only committee that no one wanted anything to do with. You have an opportunity to be a hero. This committee is not what it used to be. It is evolving. It is a group of citizens who are really, really working hard to develop the committee. It took a couple of years to actually build a committee. And now, anyway, so please, thank you. And I appreciated what you said earlier, Marita, about these committees aren't just where a board member shows up and just puts in signs in. You have to be engaged and stuff. So being an alternate, I think, means you have to show up at least some of the time. You know, not just when the other person, the regular can't show up. So anyway, thank you, and we'll bring you up to speed. Thank you.
I'm Will Moore, and I'll volunteer to be a civilian member of the Hardwood Advisory Committee, but I think I need an appointment or a nomination from the board or a member of the board.
You would need to fill out an application, and then it would come to the board for consideration.
Okay.
You can get that in my office.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Supervisor Tofinelli.
I will move this item, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Supervisor Tofinelli, second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Number 20.
Item 20 is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. What you have before you is the first round of appointments or applications for consideration. Generally, we take them all together under one vote. I don't know if, because this is a time when we have quite a few, if you would like to break them out and just take a motion on each. It might make it cleaner because there are some vacancies that have multiple applications.
So, Madam Clerk, you're suggesting that we break these out?
Yeah, I think it's really the best way. Or if you'd like to just we can go through the list, you can make recommendations, and then we can do one vote overall at the end.
Yeah, let's go through the list.
Just like we just did.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
You could read this one, though.
I will be happy to do that. So the first group that we have applications for is the Agricultural Advisory Committee. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/21 for a District 4 representative. And we have one application from Mindy Rasmussen, who has previously and currently served. Is there any comments or?
I just thank Ms. Rasmussen for taking the time to serve in the past and desiring to serve again.
Okay. The second is for the Air Pollution Control Hearing Board. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2021 for a general public member, number 1, and an application from Bud Hoekstra.
Madam Clerk, I believe that there was a recruitment going on, and I didn't know whether we wanted to move ahead quickly. Do you want to say anything about that, Brad? Not sure I'm up to date on where we are.
Yeah, I believe we've got 3 vacancies, 2 public and 1 attorney vacancies, and so we really would appreciate if we had the opportunity to do a recruitment and then come back with recommendations.
With a full slate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree, Chair, because there are special requirements to be even on this board, that we allow that recruitment to go forward.
Is there any pressing issue that would make this something we have to deal with right now, or is this something we could postpone?
No, sir.
Thank you. That work for everybody?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, the next is for the Area 12 Agency on Aging Advisory Council. one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2021 for member number 2. We have one application from Janet Clark, who is currently serving and has served for, I believe, several years.
I have no problem.
Okay, and just as a note, these are not the only vacancies. These are just the ones that we have received applications for so that we can hopefully take action. Okay, so next we have the Fish and Game Commission. The Fish and Game Commission was recently, at the end of this last year, reorganized by the Board of Supervisors upon the recommendation of the commission last year and the clerk. They previously had 2 representatives from each district and had difficulty making a quorum on several occasions. And so their new membership is 1 representative from each district and 2 members at large. So I'll read the vacancies and the application names. So the first is 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2019 for District 3. We have an application from Stephen Kaisers, and we have an application from Ronald Severud, who has currently served for the last few years as a District 3 representative. We have 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a District 4 representative. We have 1 application from Elaine St. John, who has served for the last couple of years on the commission. We have 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/19 for a District 5 representative. We have an application from Albert Alt, who has served for the last year, maybe 2, and an application from Clarissa Powell. We have a vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a member at large 1, and 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a member at large 2. So the board could, if they decided, where they have a choice in District 3 and in District 5, could possibly consider whoever is not appointed in those districts could very well be appointed as a member at large. So those are the options, or you can make no appointment. It's up to you.
So by appointing Kaiser and Powell, Madam Clerk, we fill the 2, who are not the incumbents, that would fill those 2 member at large positions.
You could very well do that, yes.
I support that.
I could also then be all right with Albert Alt and Clarissa Powell in the same instance.
So
I would not support that for District 1. I have somebody that should have had
we don't have anybody for District 1. Nobody's
Yeah,
submitted
but
an
I thought you were
application.
going to refill.
No, we're going to fill.
But the alternates is what you were talking about.
No,
No, these are-
You're giving who you want for your district.
Yeah, no, this
Yeah.
isn't filling District 2 spot.
Okay.
No, this is just making an appointment possibly making an appointment for District 3, District 4, District 5, and then possibly the member at large positions, of which there are 2.
Okay.
There are still openings for District 1 and
Yes, there
District
is.
2.
I'm aware of that, but it should be filled here shortly, so.
Okay. So am I understanding then that what you're proposing is that in District 3, Ronald Severud be appointed as the District 3 representative, and in District 5, Albert Alt be appointed as the representative, and Stephen Kaisers and Clarissa Powell would then be appointed as members at large? Is that what I'm understanding?
Supervisor Mills, you had Ms. St. John? Okay, so it should be included in there too.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
So, since a consensus, is there any public comment on?
We're not done.
Sorry.
Oh, no, we have more. We have a couple
yeah.
pages
We
more.
have a lot.
Okay, so the next is for the IHSS Advisory Committee. We have 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a general public representative 4. Catherine Gonzalez is the current representative for that position. And we have 1 vacancy for a term ending 12/31/2020 for a past and present consumer, Diane Van Overloop McNown, is currently serving and I believe has served for a number of years.
Everybody okay with those appointments?
Yes.
Okay. Next is the Library Commission. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for member 3. This is not a district specific, it's just the members are numbered. Connie Bowser is currently serving. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2022 for member 4. We have an application from Linda Oliveira. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2022 for member 5. We have an application from Sheila Neal, who is currently serving. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2022 for member 7, and we have an application from Kathleen Copeland, who is currently serving.
That's for everybody? Supervisor Mills?
Yeah, I'm glad to see Ms. Oliveira is willing to make the application.
Okay, the next is for the Murphy Cemetery District. There's one vacancy for an unexpired term ending 12/31/2022 for member 4. We have Karen, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, I'm very sorry. Kaua, who is currently serving, and we have another vacancy expiring 12/31/2022 for member 5, and that is from Christy Darby, who is currently serving as well.
Now, Miss Darby, if she moves to Vallecito, would that make a...
These are not
It would make a difference. No, Murphy Cemetery District, you must live within the Murphy Cemetery District boundaries.
I'll remind her. I'm very close to her, so.
Okay. To be on their board, you have to also live
Live
within
in the
their district.
Okay. This as long as she's aware of it.
Okay. So yes.
Everybody
She's
okay with
building
that?
a new house in
Fine with it.
Vallecito.
Dennis, you good with that?
I'm fine with it, yes.
Okay. The next is for the Parks and Recreation Commission. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2019 for a District 5 representative, and we have an application from Clarissa Powell.
I would suggest she take it, yes.
That's fine. I talked to her.
Okay. The next is for the Planning Commission. So all positions on the Planning Commission have expired. They do have a meeting the day after tomorrow, so it would behoove... Oh, okay. Anyway, there's one vacancy for a term expiring, well, they all expire 12/31/2020. District 1 representative, we have an application from F. Joseph Bocelli Jr., who is currently serving as a planning commissioner.
I'm fine with him.
Okay. We have one vacancy for a term for the District 2 representative. We have an application from Timothy Laddish, who is currently serving.
Stay with that.
We have one vacancy for a term for the District 3 representative. We have two applications, one from Lisa Muterdes, who has currently served as a planning commissioner, and one from Michelle Plotnick, who previously served as a planning commissioner.
I would like Michelle Plotnick.
We have one vacancy for a District 4 representative, and we have an application from Kelly Wooster, who has been serving as the planning commissioner for that district.
I'm very pleased that he's in the room today, and I'm appreciative that he's willing to continue to serve.
Right. And then we have one vacancy for a District 5 representative, of which we have two applications, one from Brett Henderson and one from Clarissa Powell.
I would like for Brett Henderson for that position, and thank you for showing up today, Brett.
Okay. On the Prevent Child Abuse Council, we have 4 vacancies for terms expiring 12/31/2020. The Prevent Child Abuse Council makes a recommendation for the following 3 applications. One for Julie Hall, who is currently serving, one for Karina Lindblom, and one from Christina Smith.
Anybody have any objections?
No.
Okay, we're getting close to the end. Public Educational and Governmental, or PEG, Television Commission. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a District 1 representative. We have an application from Cliff Edson. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2022 for a District 4 representative, and we have an application from Alvin Brolio, who is currently serving. We have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2020 for a District 5 representative. We have an application from Ples Hill, who is currently serving. And we have one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2022 for a representative of the County Administrative Office. And we have an application from Krista Von Lotta.
These are district appointments.
They are.
I would like to pull the District 1 application pending a conversation with him.
Okay.
And,
I'm fine. Oh, go ahead.
well, in District 4, Mr. Brolio took over for a member that passed away, as you recall, and it continues their history and their legacy, so I'm fully supporting Mr. Brolio here.
Supervisor Stopper?
I am good with Pleasant.
Krista, I assume.
Not pushing hard enough.
Yes,
There
it's
you go.
on. Now it's off. Now it's off. There it is.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that Kristen had made this application. I would like to talk to her before you appoint her.
Okay, so we'll pull her.
So we're pulling Mr. Edson and Mr. Von Lotta, Ms. Von Lotta.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going ahead with the appointment for District 4 and District 5, and District 1 and the CAO office, those applications were pulled. Okay, so the last one we have for today is an appointment to the West Point Cemetery District for one vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2021 for member number 2. It's in District 2, and that's an application from Julio Guerrera.
Absolutely. In fact, if anybody's listening, we need more members on that board, as well as Railroad Flat Cemetery District. Get involved, it's lots of fun.
That's all I have, so if you like to take public comment.
Public comment? George?
Good morning, Board. George Fry. I got here late this morning. I overslept. I can't believe I did that, especially on the day that we have 2 new supervisors. And I would like to thank both of them for running and being elected. I would like to thank whoever was,
George?
had,
This item.
what?
This item.
Oh, 234?
No, the appointments for boards.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were at public
It's all right.
comment. Did somebody say public comment?
It was public comment related to this
On
item.
this item.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Further discussion, questions?
No, simply to make a motion to approve with the 2 removed. That would be Mr. Edson and Ms. Von Lotta.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Mills, a second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Didn't say anything.
Okay, item 21 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution continuing emergency contracting procedures pursuant to Public Contract Code, Chapter 2.5, Section 22050, for emergency repair work necessary to skylight structures on the roofs of Building A, D, and E of the county government campus.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Bonnie Rich Administration. If I can have just a minute to seek some clarification from the board clerk on this agenda item, and I'll give you.
No impact.
So where do you want to meet?
Can you do afternoon later in the evening?
Tonight?
No, I could do tonight also. But I mean,
No. Yeah, I could probably do later in the afternoon, say 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
What time, does that work for you?
Yeah. I gotta hit my calendar because I'm scheduling a lot of stuff for right now. But let's see. Right now, I have Friday open. I have today open later on.
I haven't filled my calendar in, so I could probably do Friday.
Okay.
I could do Friday at 4 o'clock at Common Ground or
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Either or, or if you want to
Barbershop.
Okay, thank you for giving me a moment to seek clarification with the board clerk. Quick update for the 2 new board members. Back in the fall, early November, Administration Facilities Division came to the board asking the board to adopt a resolution declaring a state of emergency for some roofing repairs to buildings A, D, and E. Those are our main campus buildings. We had many years ago, more than 20 years ago, I don't know the exact year, we had leakage with the skylights that are in these facilities. We used back then inmate resources to build what we called dog houses over these skylight areas. Over the years, they were intended to be temporary. They ended up being 20 plus years temporary. And so not knowing what Old Man Winter might bring us this year, we did not want to face another year of inclement weather that would further deteriorate the already rotting structures that were protecting our skylights. So the board approved that, and then pursuant to public contract code, what happens is as a result of dispensing with competitive bidding under public contract code, we are required to have this matter on the agenda to give the board an update of where we are at with the project. Before the holidays, I informed the board that we had, so we selected a contractor, Alcio Roofing Company out of Jackson. And we approached this, it was a 2-phased approach. First phase was to repair the skylight structures, and then the second phase was to put a temporary seal coating on the remainder of the roof, while we looked at working with our contracted architect to prepare plans and specifications for pulling off the remainder of the existing roof and replacing. After careful review and working with our facilities manager, Patrick Martin, and our contracted project manager, Thomas Construction Company, we determined that it was a more economical and feasible solution rather than to tear off the remaining pitch areas of the roof, is to repair any further dry rot in the exterior downspout areas, and then do a permanent seal coating that would last another 10 to 15 years. So phase 1 has been complete. The skylight structures have been repaired. All the work has been done for A, D, and E. And now phase 2 will result in the seal coating. However, we really can't engage that work until we have better weather and the weather remains a warmer, steady temperature in order for that material to cure. However, we are working with the contractor to evaluate the flat areas and the downspout areas for any excessive rotting so that we can issue any necessary change orders for that work. What I want to give to the board today is an update on what we have paid for the project total to date. And then copies for the public as well. So, as you can see, for project management cost, we have paid a little over $3,400. We have paid $9,200 for our architectural plans and specifications. Phase 1, the skylight roof covering repairs, less than 5% retention, $95,725. We had to engage an electrical contractor to do some disconnect and reconnect while we worked on those structures, a little more than $7,500. And then when we issued the first change order under Phase 1, the board will recall that as we started peeling back the layers, we realized that the plywood that was used to create those doghouse structures were not of the appropriate thickness per code, nor did it meet the specs for replacement. So we, rather than realize a contractor markup on the material, we purchased the material to meet the architect specs for the replacement of the plywood on those structures. So we paid $4,300 and some change there. So to date, on this project, out of a $825,000 budget available, we have spent $120,328.46. And for the two new supervisors, the Phase 2, the contractor costs are just under $90,000, I believe it's about $88,000 for Phase 2, but we are expecting a change order because we are expecting some dry rot repairs on the flat areas of the roof after the pitch, where the pitch ends.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, Chair, I do.
Please.
My condolences to the city of Chicago.
Thank you, Supervisor Mills.
As you know, a Packer fan. Anyway, the point is that there are only two phases involved in this emergency declaration, only two phases.
For this particular project, yes, there are two phases. So likely after this meeting, what I would like to do is work with the CAO and council and the board clerk to actually, we have to under public contract code, keep this on the agenda item. But I'd like to move it to consent, and then as updates are available, pull it for discussion. Because there's going to be several weeks where I'm not going to have an update for you. We had attempted to get All Sierra Roofing out here this week to start the evaluation and assessment, but with the inclement weather, that has not happened yet. Patrick is working to schedule that later this week or the first part of next week. So it is possible at the next meeting I will have an update on that piece. But I'm not anticipating a lot of updates until we get to the warmer weather where we can do the actual final seal coating.
I would consider asking the board to move this to consent with updates that you might be able to put within the consent item itself. And if there's further discussion that it needs to have some depth, then it'd be up to the chair to decide whether or not to bring it over to consent.
If council concurs, that would be a fantastic idea. I think the only, well, we can deal with it at that time. I'm not sure about the notice of completion. We may have to discuss that, but that's at the very end.
Yeah, that would actually be an agendized item, but the rest of it is literally just keep us aware of your progress.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the board?
Okay.
Seeing none, any public comment?
This is related to the agendized item. The skylight's right here. Just to plant a seed, you know, there's new technology Calaveras doesn't always catch up with, and I think this room is probably a microcosm of one of them, and that's LED technology. I don't know what your contracts are for your electrical services. I don't know if it would make any sense, but maybe some of this money from the PG&E settlement could be earmarked for LED replacement. I don't know if there's one in here. And it's substantial savings to the county over the long run. It would be a substantial initial investment, but I think you'd get it back pretty quick. So, like I said, just planting the seed. Skylights, lights, let's go to LED. You know, makes a difference.
Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Is there further discussion or a motion?
I'll move the item, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Supervisor Tofinelli. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Supervisor Stopper. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on meetings they attended at the expense of the local agency at the next regular meeting of the legislative body. This report is required to include meetings attended for which there has been expense reimbursement, such as mileage, meals, lodging, etc., but may also, at the board member's discretion, include any other meeting attended by the supervisor on behalf of the county.
Supervisor Tofinelli.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Stopper.
I attended the CSAC New Supervisors Institute in San Diego. It was good to network with other people from counties, see how they do different things. I got a lot of cards from different people, discussed a lot of different issues for the short amount of time I was there. And I was sworn in last Friday.
Supervisor Mills.
Yes, I was up in Sacramento yesterday for the governor's inauguration and had a perchance meeting with Felicia Marcus with the Water Board. And we had coffee for 45 minutes and a very open and unabashed discussion on all of the moving parts regarding what the Water Board's doing and the goals that they're trying to set and the larger picture. It was probably the most refreshing conversation I've had with a Water Board member since I talked to Paul at Part E. I also had a chance to meet with Rich Gordon with the California Forestry, and they are moving forward with the concept of a statewide legislative action regarding forest health and forest management to be carried by a Santa Barbara assemblywoman as a result of the Thomas Fire, which I thought was rather an interesting way to look at this. But forest resiliency does play very well to watershed management, so all of it works together. It's all moving parts. And how do we engage the federal government? So this is where we bring Congressman Omalfa, Congressman McClintock, and their staff also into this conversation so that we can, in essence, craft legislation. One of the things that they made very clear was that the state has money necessary to do what they think they need to do, but the federal government really isn't ready to do a lot. And the third part of it is, where is the infrastructure to make it happen? And so are a lot of private firms going to invest the necessary funds to do an infrastructure, necessary support, the amount of fuel that we're talking about removing? And I did relate to the fuel break projects here in this county and the amount of work that's being done here, but not every county's in that same mode. This needs to be a statewide action. It needs to be where all hands on deck regarding fires and fuel management within the entire state, not just what happens in Calaveras or in Paradise. So it's going to be a continuing conversation. I'll be more than happy to speak with any member of the Assembly or the Senate regarding this issue, not so much on behalf of Calaveras County, but behalf of the residents who live in these areas that are fire prone. And as most people know now, fire insurance, wildland fire insurance, is being removed from homeowners insurance policies in Calaveras County. That's creating an additional potential burden that I think that we need to address. So it all works together, and I appreciate Mr. Gordon's time and willing to talk about the issue and how they want to bring it forward on a statewide basis.
Supervisor Callaway.
I'm the team representative in Ebbets Pass for the homeless survey that will be conducted the 23rd, 24th of this month. It's being orchestrated by the leadership group from the Chamber of Commerce, but it does impact the funding that Calaveras County will receive. So if any of you have an opportunity to be part of a team for the homeless survey, I'd encourage you to maybe take that opportunity. It's a very moving experience to be able to do that. Thank you.
What did I forget to mention?
Yeah, and there will be a couple of meetings for this, and one will be on the 17th at Town Hall here in San Andreas, and then there's yes, a training class, and then there will be a training class Kathy Galino was talking about for Valley Springs area on the 18th, and that's the two in my district for training classes. So if you're interested in doing this, it also segues, the training also segues you in to be able to be part of the census group that's going to go around taking the census coming next year. So you will have the schooling. It's supposed to be all worked into the same type thing, and you would be able to be eligible for that too if you're interested. So the 17th at Town Hall and the 18th at the Vets Hall in Valley Springs. I believe the time is 6 o'clock when they start for the training course.
That's great.
8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Is that what you have, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.? Yeah, I believe it's, at least at the Vets Hall, I believe it starts at 6, so you could get more people involved later on. 2 to 4? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Is there?
Thank you for clarifying that, because there was some different times, I think, floating around.
So
I realize that, but
So I think if the public has questions, they should contact the Chamber of Commerce? Would that be the?
or Kathy Galino.
Kathy Galino in our office. Yeah, this is, I agree with you, this is very important. If we want to solve our problem, we need to start with good data. Supervisor Kelly, anything else? I have nothing to report under AB 1234. So if there's nothing further?
I just have one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to remind the supervisors that we still have many, many vacancies for boards, committees, and commissions. I have provided you with a list, which I will update this week and provide a new one. Just to keep in mind that some of these groups, the members are required to file Form 700s. They all are required to comply with the Brown Act. So my office is working on getting a training provided that would be online so that these groups would have the tools that they need to conduct their meetings in compliance with the Brown Act.
Madam Counsel? Mr. CEO? Very well. Then since consensus to close this meeting, we stand adjourned.